The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Glen Alexander.
Hey Cowboy fans, today's episode is brought to you by Oakley Burklow, your go-to independent insurance agent and proud OSU alum. Oakley helps with home, auto, life, and business insurance, working with multiple top-rated insurance companies to find you the right coverage at the right price. Licensed in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Call 918-280-9068 or email oakley.burklow@connectmyinsurance.com. Personal service, honest advice, and a fellow poke helping you protect what matters most. Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Glen Alexander, the Oklahoma State podcast here for the College Huddle Network. And Gundy has been Mike Gundy's been fired after 20 years. So crazy enough as that is, I've got a fellow Big 12 podcaster from the College Huddle here, and Bob Trollsby, who has a great shirt on, Cocaine Willie Podcast for Kansas State fans. And you're wondering what Oklahoma State fans feel, come over this way. If you're wondering what K-State fan feels, check out Cocaine Willie. I can't even get my words together here. This is crazy, right, Bob?
We're kind of both in the same boat so far this season. The exception to that is you just fired your coach of 21 years. So things are weird, man. What a weird season. What a weird start to the season.
Yeah, I don't do it on a Tuesday. I'll start out with the things that I know here. One, rumors are, and I can almost verify for sure, these are donor decisions being made here, and that's why it was led to being this time. Donors called in after the press conference yesterday of Gundy saying, I'm going to be pushed out. And they said, all right, if he's not retiring and he's not going to be, hey, I'm happy to resign, let's get it done now. Why wait? And that's why you have it on a Tuesday after a Monday press conference, after a Monday radio show that was less than 24 hours ago that Gundy kind of hosts or co-hosts. So bunch of weird deals here. I'm curious here, fellow Big 12 fan, instant reaction. What are your thoughts here, though?
So my initial reaction is based on recency and this season and last season alone. I'm not surprised at all. I think the question for me was, and I was listening to the game KMAN 1350 in Manhattan, Kansas yesterday. The host Mitch Fortner brought up a good question of, is this the kind of situation where you're going to let him coach out the rest of the season? At this point, what difference does it really make? Is the season even salvageable? This being tacked on to what happened last year, going 3-9 last year. Brutal start to the season. Obviously, losing to Tulsa is not ideal. Losing in the fashion you did is even less ideal. So I think it begged the question of, is this going to happen sooner rather than later? Could this happen after Baylor? Could this happen halfway through the season? Could this happen, at the end of the year? And we all got our answer today. But I just think about when you look at what Gundy's done, his track record at Oklahoma State, taking over for Les Miles when he did, and kind of being the guy, being the mainstay in the Big 12. He's one of the faces of the Big 12 for all intents and purposes. When you think about coaches and tenure and track record of success, we did our Big 12 head coach power rankings, and I had a hard time ranking Gundy high on the list basically based on last year, but he's only 2 seasons removed from a Big 12 title appearance even, and losing that game to Texas. So, and I think winning Big 12 head coach of the year that year. So it's kind of wild to think that things can fall off the rails as quickly as they did there, but it's indicative of when you look at college football and the landscape that we have today. You've got coaches like Gundy and Dabo, and they're struggling to adapt to the times. We saw a mass exodus of longtime head coaches like Nick Saban leaving the game. And this is the result of a lot of the changes that we've seen. I think you have to adapt or die, and that's just kind of the way college football is right now. And unfortunately, all the hilarious moments we've had through the years of, Gundy wearing the OAN T-shirt and Gundy drinking 3 to 4 beers 1,000 times, and the I'm a man, I'm 40. He's easily one of the most clickbaity, easiest guys that you could possibly get engagement out of with us being in the content industry. But the mullet, I mean, it's just, I'm sad to see him go because of who he was and that cult of personality that you got with Gundy year in and year out at Big 12 media days and just throughout the press conferences and things that he would have. But he's the last of the old guard here. It's going to be him and then Whittingham, who's already announced he's going to leave at some point. Now Matt Campbell's going to be the longest tenured head coach in the Big 12. Yeah,
and for a conference in flux, I would say, is the best way. That seems pretty weird. When we're coming into this season, I'm thinking Big 12 versus ACC. How are we going to rack up? Stand. We know who's getting the money right now and all that stuff. And then, of course, the season starts off for Oklahoma State, and now I'm just focused on Oklahoma State. Like, I couldn't care less about how the Big 12 ACC stands because we're just that bad.
Yeah,
you're right. Two things here. Gundy has been the Big 12 Coach of the Year 3 times in his 21-year tenure at Oklahoma State. 2 of those times are since 2020, and yet he's getting fired in 2025. I mean, he didn't get named 2024 Big 12 Head Coach of the Year, but you're right, 2023 and 2021. 2023, his son plays in multiple games, who I'm not disparaging, but it's weird. It's just it's an odd move when he
Emporia State Hornet Gunnar Gundy
goes up by 35 a little bit just to KU territory, Kansas territory. It just is such a weird thing to think that 2023 season, I think, saved him for a little bit. He was anti-NIL, anti-transfer portal. And then 2023 kind of proves him right a little bit in those respects. But also, you're not going to get a bunch of transfers when you have 20 starters returning in 2024. You're just not. You're not going to get the same influx, not get the same kind of group of guys, you're not going to be able to recruit the same way. How are you going to have Alan Bowman not be your starting quarterback when you went to the Big 12 championship game the year before, and the team you played in the Big 12 championship is no longer in the Big 12? Like, what? Everything was lining up all Oklahoma State so quickly, and head into 2024. And our last win against an FBS opponent came last year against Tulsa, 45-10 at Tulsa. And we haven't won since then. Since then, Gundy has called the fans, I just want to be exact here because I don't want to mix it up. He calls the fans, he referred to them as poor failures who can't pay their own bills during a November 2024 press conference. That, to me, was the nail in the coffin. And then you have a bunch of weird board regents meetings of maybe Gundy's getting fired. And I mean, nail in the coffin is like Gundy's out within a year or two. I mean, that was to me of like, when he's making comments like that, he's done. He doesn't want to do the media stuff. He's kind of done with the gamut type of deal. And now we're here where he is literally gone. And I don't think there's a worse way to go out. Gotta say, I thought having him coach the rest of the season would be the right thing to do, because right now, Gundy's going to be able to tell everyone, hey, I tried it their way the last season and they didn't like it. And he's going to be able to say their way of 40-plus transfers, new coordinators and coaches at every single position. No one came back from last year's coaching staff except for Gundy. So you're going to be able to say those two things as a, hey, I was one of Holder's guys. Weiberg didn't like me the day one, or whatever he's telling himself. He's going to have his own sales pitch on his way out the door. Oklahoma State we're recording this at 1:07 Central Time. Oklahoma State does have a press conference later today at 3:30, so might be a follow-up to this later on here today, depending on what happens there. But I'm assuming they'll appoint interim HC, announce Gundy's gone, and that type of stuff there, and Weiberg will get in front of the mic. The other thing that's interesting is that our athletic director, Chad Weiberg, supposedly is either contemplating retirement or getting a new contract. He does not have one in place, basically by anyone's standards. His contract expired July 31st, and I'm not necessarily sure how it all works, because Board of Regents were meeting with Gundy, and Weiberg was meeting with Gundy on the offseason. I don't know who has to actually sign the physical paper. I would assume it would be our athletic director, but that's an assumption. So it's interesting to me that the call has been made. He's been fired. It's been said by his guy, Robert Allen. Like, that is Gundy's, I wouldn't say his, I don't know if Gundy goes, oh, that's my dude, but I think Robert Allen goes, that's my dude. And that's great to have that relationship with the head coach. I'm very jealous of it. But it is a guy who is very close to Gundy, reporting all this, saying all this, he's out and gone. To me, that definitely is a sign of the times. When your own dude is saying you're out.
For sure.
It's a bad look.
I'm curious with Weiberg. So since he's a K-State guy, because he came from Kansas State, I've met the guy a couple of times. Really, really nice guy in my meetings with him. I'm curious what has been the approach at Oklahoma State when replacing coaches in the past? Obviously, my level of knowledge kind of extends to just Boynton and that replacement process. So I'm curious, what do you think that replacement process is going to look like? What kind of archetype of head coach do you think, or candidate do you think Weiberg is going to end up going for? And I would assume it's not going to be an interim, promote the interim to a head coach. He probably wants to clean house, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that 110%. I think there is really a couple of things to base this off of. Weiberg did not bring in Kenny Gajewski directly, but Gajewski's been around it was pretty much in that time. Gajewski came over from Florida, previously played baseball for OU. Not a born and bred Oklahoma State guy. You talk about David Taylor wrestling. He's not an Oklahoma State guy at all. He's a Penn State wrestler, not from Oklahoma, does not have deep ties. And then Steve Lutz with the replacement there as well, too. Those are the big names to kind of, be really pointed about here and bring forefront. Also, Chris Young, tennis head coach as well, too. There's a whole scandal with that and some stuff I'm not really sure on. So I'll speak to what I know. And that is that Steve Lutz, Western Kentucky guy, but also Texas Corpus Christi guy. Texas A&M Corpus Christi, excuse me. And then you've got David Taylor, who's a Penn State guy who was supposedly brought in by a very big donor to Oklahoma State, who's the Paycom CEO, Chad Richardson, who really, really wanted to see the state of Oklahoma have a really good wrestling program. Like somebody do incredibly well. UCO's wrestling program, which is where Chad Richardson went, is doing better, but they're at a different level, of course, than Oklahoma State would be at, or really any FBS level. And that's kind of the David Taylor route. It's getting David Taylor in for a record amount of money for wrestling head coach. And that's kind of his archetype so far, is not bringing in a true Oklahoma State guy. You've got still Josh Holliday, who's the baseball head coach, who's Oklahoma State born and bred. And I will say Weiberg, I'm not sure how much you know, but sadly, his brother passed away in a plane crash in January 27, 2001. He has deep ties to the university. He's been around for a long time as well, too. I know previously he was at K-State and at Texas Tech before coming back to Stillwater, so to say. So he knows Stillwater extremely well. And I would think if he is contemplating retirement, it would be... I love Weiberg. Love the guy. I think he's a great person. I've met him a couple times, just probably in the same kind of settings you have. I'm very involved with the Remember the 10 run, so I met him through those capacities. And he could not be more of an upstanding man who says all the right things at all the right times, and is just very... I wouldn't say he's the Holder type. I met Mike Holder, the previous athletic director, a couple times. And Holder was kind of like shake your hand, give you a big smile, and keep moving. Chad Weiberg was almost the caring kind of dad of like,
sure.
How's it going? What are you up to? What are you working on? Whatever. And it's like, hey, dude, I'm the intern who's playing music at some basketball games. Like, I appreciate you asking, but like, I think you're doing it because we're in the same elevator for a minute or two together, right? He's not. Just to kind of say, like, I think he's more of that guy who's not whipping out his phone every second trying to check on something the second he has the free time. He's definitely more observant, all type of stuff.
For sure. And I remember, again, just third party perspective here, but I remember there was a lot of tension through the years between Gundy and Holder, to where Gundy, maybe he did it publicly or not, but was threatening to leave for certain job openings when they would come up, and try to use that against, Holder to try to get whatever he wanted. At least that's what it sounded like from the outsider perspective. I'm also curious from your standpoint, what do you think this does to the outlook of the season? How does this change? Not that there were a ton of expectations coming into it, but what do you think this does? Do you think the team will rally around this happening and rally around the existing staff, which are mostly new guys, similar to the Matt Wells situation at Texas Tech a couple of years ago, where they ended up finishing, I think, 6-6 and going to a bowl after they canned Matt Wells? Do you think it's going to be more similar to that situation, or do you think this is Gary Patterson at TCU and Jerry Kill might get a couple wins here or there, but it's gone at this point?
Yeah, I don't want to sound mean whatsoever or offensive. I think the only win left on the season that we have a chance at is against K-State.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
I think that's kind of it. Because I agree with you. I don't think other than that, there's not a chance in my mind that we win. We just haven't shown anything offensively that gives me any type of energy or excitement or kind of, oh, hey, we could do that at least or whatever. It's like,
right.
Hey, we haven't scored a touchdown in a long time. And, and we scored one this past weekend. I'm well aware on a Friday night. I think seeing a bunch of the fans in the stadium and really seeing how interested all the fans are, every single thing that's put out on YouTube, it seems like it's being clicked on about Gundy. It just is. So many people are really interested in this that to me, it's a sign that probably won't win another game because so many fans are so interested. There was push to get him out. And I don't think we would have won if he had stayed. I don't know if that all makes sense together, but hopefully it does. I don't think Oklahoma State would have won another game if he had stayed. I think we might win a game, but it really will depend on if Hosseini, the guy who's got the broken foot, Jones fracture, which NBA head here kept Kevin Durant out of a whole entire season. Different sports, different shoes, different everything. But a guy who's got a 4.4 speed breaking his foot generally would mean he wouldn't come back running a 4.4 speed no matter what, even if it's next year and his foot's fully healed, right? You're not going to feel the same kind of comfortability on it. And that to me means that was our playmaker. That was the guy who showed out in the very first game of the season in the first quarter against University of Texas Martin. So I'm not sure what to say against all of that, right? Like if he had played against Oregon and we could have seen some flashes or a touchdown or two, maybe. Yeah. But I'm just really not hopeful we're winning another game this season. And if I had to give us our best shot to be a weird fluky win like at UCF or something, just kind of a weird wait, they pulled off that one 17-10 or 17-14 and there was no way anyone thought they'd win and UCF kind of slept through it or something. Yeah. But that's the only deal. And it would have to be it'd have to be kind of the same MO as our 2023 loss to UCF for us to beat a team this year where we beat a team, where whoever we're playing has a big game the week before and they win it unexpectedly and they feel really, really excited about it and they think they're just going to roll through us and somehow we do a couple trick plays, a couple onside kicks, a couple doing whatever that just, play on a really, really wet field, et cetera, and that's how we win. I don't see the script in any type of game here coming up that makes me hopeful, really. I mean, Iowa State on senior day? Probably not.
Wouldn't be mad about it.
I'd be hyped about it. I want
Turn the tables. They were the ones that spoiled your national championship berth or
how therapeutic that would be if we knocked them out of Big 12 championship contention and we said, hey, Matt Campbell, go coach Wisconsin or do whatever you're going to do next and we'll see you. Because that would be therapeutic to me. I mean, because that ball went through the uprights, to be clear, 2011, just in case anyone's curious. I'm a hardcore believer in that. So
when you look at this, they're starting to announce who are some of the guys on the hot board, who are some of the candidates that are out there. If you had to throw, 3 or 4 names out there that most intrigue you out of those guys on that list, I think I would just say personally, a couple of the names that stand out to me are a guy like Alex Galesh, head coach of South Florida. That'd be a G5 guy elevating to the Power 4 level. He's had good track record of success. I guess he has some ties to Oklahoma State, apparently.
He was a grad assistant for a little bit, for I think a year in 2008. So it's been a while, but he was a grad assistant. Yeah.
And there are a couple of coordinators at Penn State, one of which, Jim Knowles, was in the program most recently. It kind of depends on if Weiberg and the donors want to take the approach of taking a guy who fits that Gundy tree, if you will, or Andy Kotelnicki is another guy who is familiar with the Big 12 from his time at Kansas and offensive coordinator there. And then finally, a name that I would be remiss not to mention is my guy Colin Klein, the current offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, a guy also very familiar with the Big 12. But curious, who of those guys would you rather place on your hot board if you have one? Is there anyone I didn't name? I think there are a couple names that you may bring up here.
Yeah, the most recent podcast I've done about head coaching rumors is Ben Arbuckle. Of course, I think that would be the dream scenario is that Ben Arbuckle somehow goes, hey, John Mateer, let's go win a back-to-back Heisman or something. And it comes to Stillwater and really just points the needle. I don't see that happening. I don't see Ben Arbuckle. I think he'll be one of the highest touted names. I could see him taking the Arkansas head coaching job if that's available.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. The Jim Knowles would be a grand slam type of home run hire, in my opinion, because I think the next guy to replace Gundy will be a guy who's there for 3 to 5 years. It will not be a guy who's going to be here 10 years again. The other names here that I've heard thrown out is Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, who just came off a weekend where they didn't score a point against the Carolina Panthers, and one of the NFL's worst 5 rosters, I think, overall. Granted, Michael Penix is not the greatest quarterback. I know the players do the playing, but man, that's tough to watch there. Zach Robinson's going to be moved down to the field to also be coaching there. They let go of a guy earlier today. Just a lot of stuff there with that. I would love to see us hire Alex Golesh. I think that pronunciation better than I did. I would love to see him because in my mind, what we need right now as a program is we need some type of just real quick. Hey, let's do an Indiana Kirk Cignetti type of hire where we can get a new guy in the door, who can bring in some transfers, and all of a sudden the team just looks better, a lot better overall than it did the year before. Right now, Oklahoma State has a lot of guys on the roster who will graduate and move on from the program. And a lot of those guys are transfers. So we did kind of pick off some guys who were really highly recruited transfers, but they're going to be gone. And I would love to see us bring in Alex Golesh would be the chief name. I'm not too hyped on Zach Robinson, and that's not recency bias. That is more of the guy has not been a head coach before. He's been an offensive coordinator. Before then, he was an offensive kind of analyst and a quarterback's coach. I think he is a great developer of talent, and he can do that extremely well. And I think that's what he's there at the Atlanta Falcons to do with Michael Penix. I don't know if he's a great run the whole entire thing yet. And for his first opportunity to save his program from depths we haven't seen in a long time. We haven't lost Tulsa at home since 1951. So we just did that Friday. It's a cool deal. But there's so much pressure on Zach Robinson if he comes to Stillwater. He's going to be seen as the savior and the guy who saves everyone. You know what? Zach Robinson graduated from Oklahoma State, not this last decade, but the decade before. He's not too old. He'll probably be around. If he wants to come to Stillwater at some point, I think the gate and the door will always be open. But if we go hire Alex Golesh, and he's here for 3 to 5 years, and that kind of lines up with the new timeline for Zach Robinson, all for it too. I would say in priority list, let's go hire Zach Robinson, number 1 overall. But 1B in there is Alex Golesh or Ben Arbuckle, just a guy who could easily flip the script real quick and get us to rebound. Colin Klein want to bring some transfers from A&M? Hey, not going to be mad about it. They may not want to come.
We've got dibs.
Yeah.
You're not taking our guy.
But I mean, it's that kind of guy, right? Like, this is such a new space to play in. The other names that I saw comments before we started recording here was like, it was
DJ Kinney was on that list.
DJ Kinney, Jeff Monken, the Army head coach.
Well, we know all about that guy.
But I'm not trying to twist the needle here or anything. I'm just trying to screw whatever. I'm just trying to say that guy is not operating the same as Mike Gundy. Like, how different of a guy can we get in the door? GJ Kinney, Texas State head coach, is he trying to move up a little bit? He's got some good guys through his program. Now, Texas State has not been in a really good spot to play really competitive football for a while, but James Madison, Kirk Cignetti was playing FCS, and then all of a sudden he comes to the FBS in Indiana in the Big Ten, go to the playoffs. So nothing's too far for me at all. Jeff Traylor, the UTSA head coach as well too, would be, I think, a good hire. I just don't want to see a guy come in that is also maybe in the same spot as Gundy, and that'd be my fear about Jim Knowles, of like, hey, going to come in, be there for a little bit, but it's just not all about the NIL and the transfer portal, when I think really that's how the best teams are doing it. Texas Tech is killing everyone with their however many millions of dollars in recruiting money. I don't think we have that type of money anywhere, but I think we could definitely start trying to flex on some guys a little bit, because Oklahoma State, my last point here, Oklahoma State has historically paid their head coach, Mike Gundy, for the last 20 years in the top 1 to 3 in the Big 12, year over year.
Right.
It's not like we're paying the guys not that much. We got to be lucky, and they've got to be a hometown guy, and maybe they'll take a discount. No, we've been paying Gundy a lot of money. So we have the money to pay him either out of Oklahoma State's funds or donor funds or whatever. We have the money there available, and it should be able to attract really good talent as a head coach. It's not like we have a really poor athletic budget or poor football budget that doesn't match up with others. If we need to transfer funds over and kind of see, hey, let's move a lot of that savings into checking, let's go for it. But I just don't, maybe we're a basketball school again for a little bit, like we were in 2004 winning the Big 12. I mean, and then I'd be super hyped about that. Get Gallagher, Ibe Arena full completely.
Yeah.
Ruck win another game this season in football. Everyone needs to buy basketball season tickets and cheer on Steve Lutz and the crew, because it's going to be a couple of years before we're in the Big 12 championship game again. I think that, honestly, the devil's edged sword is how UCF beat us in 2023, and then BYU didn't beat us the next week. Because BYU beats us the next week, which we were trying to lose that game in regulation. We missed an extra point in regulation that would have won the game for us. And somehow we have a strip interception to win the game in double overtime against BYU. And I think every BYU fan is going, man, what the heck happened there? And every Oklahoma State fan is also thinking the same thing. Just we got to go to the Big 12 championship and get 10 wins on our schedule that year after starting out the season with not a predetermined quarterback and starting 3 different quarterbacks to start out the season. There's just no team that really does that. Gundy's done so many of those weird things. So that's my final words. It's like, hey, we've been paying our head coach pretty darn respectably for a long time. We can still do that, and that should bring in top talent. It may not bring in guys who are SEC or Big Ten type of, kind of mindset, or it may bring in guys who want to still go there, but are willing to go to make it maybe a one extra step in that route and don't want to go straight there. Because Ben Arbuckle, if you go straight from turning 30 to all of a sudden being head coach at Arkansas, man, I'm 32, dude. Props to you, but that is a lot. So that's all I got to say. Any other final thought from you before kind of close it out?
We lost a mainstay today in the Big 12. The Big 12 lost one of its greatest comedians, I would say, when you think about press conferences and media days, and one of the biggest characters. So I hope to see videos of Mike Gundy at some point somewhere else doing a press conference, and whether that's from a farm somewhere in Oklahoma or at another program, I think that remains to be seen. But Gundy will live forever in Big 12 lore, that without a doubt.
He will. All right. Well, if you're not already, please follow out the CGA Tour on Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter forever, I guess. Same. I have it right in the byline, but down below I put X, so I've got it right one place. I'm just not saying it. Follow out the CGA Tour. Shout out to Cocaine Willie, Bob Trollsby, and the most fun Big 12 podcast, I'd say. I mean, you guys easily have that on lock. You're the most fun Big 12 podcast to listen to for sure. But on a, hey, let's preview the Baylor game this week, and how's that going to go, and try to get on a guest. At least we've got this instead, where we can be talking about Gundy and new optimism and students on campus that I share an office with saying, maybe I want to go to the game now. I don't know. It might be a little different. I got to get my butt in the seats now, man. We got all of a sudden some new stuff going on. You think they're going on the offense and halfback read every play? Like, maybe not. Who knows? So we'll see. All right. Thanks, Bob. And we'll catch you guys again soon.
Thanks, Cal.
Hey, Cowboy fans. Today's episode is brought to you by Oakley Burklow, your go-to independent insurance agent and proud OSU alum. Oakley helps with home, auto, life, and business insurance, working with multiple top-rated insurance companies to find you the right coverage at the right price. Licensed in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Call 918-280-9068 or email oakley.burklow@connectmyinsurance.com. Personal service, honest advice, and a fellow hope